Celis to occupy the sofa intended for the guests. We're going to have an assessment of the recently concluded midterm elections. We will hear from our guests what their views are, whether the election was honest and credible. Nelson? Credible, honest, and credible, and what will be the basis? What are the basis for their answers to the question whether the last midterm election was honest or credible? If they say no, what will the basis be? If they say yes, what will be the basis? At the background always is the omnibus election code, in particular with regard to the automated election system. So may we have the views of our guests and their initial statements. Afterwards, we will propound additional questions. Maybe we can start with Butch Valdes and his affiliation.
Yes, good morning, Senator, and good morning to everybody. I am Butch Valdes, currently now chairman of a political party, the Katipunan and Demokratikong Pilipino, known as KDP. My initial reaction towards this outcome of the election is that rather than being credible, I find it incredible. The reason for this is I was looking at the beneficiaries of the results as they have been presented by the media. And I see three basic groups that are beneficiaries of this. Number one is, of course, the president and his daughter's group, because most of the ones that have been presented as winners in different rankings come from candidates which they have endorsed. Number two, we also see that most of the people should be happy because there was a complete shutdown of the so-called Ocho Derecho, which was kind of the prevailing sentiment at the time that we felt was the general sentiment. And number three, the other beneficiary here is the oligarchy. I say the oligarchy because we in KDP and many others have been focused on trying to do and promising to do certain things that will negate oligarchic interest in the present situations, most especially the energy costs and so on, and water costs and other things that are in control right now of the private sector, specifically only a few in the private sector, about 8 big corporations.
These are you're saying that the result is not reflective of the choices of the people, and what will be the basis for saying so?
I said the prevailing sentiment was that the Ocho Derecho was not, none of the Ocho Derecho come out. So the general sentiment is they were happy that none of the Ocho Derecho. It's also correct that the president's choices have been came up, no? And the president being popular, it should be a popular choice, should be. The third, however, if you look at the number of people that are there, none of them are going to go against the oligarchic interests.
But let's go to the election per se.
Yes.
Do you think the election is credible and honest? And that is the question that we are trying to get answers from you.
It's hard to say whether they're credible or honest. It just, you have to look at the outcome and then you can make that conclusion. So I felt, my feeling is that the people that have come out have already been decided on.
Maybe, Sen, we can go back
Yes.
on Butch, no? The KPP chairman, but we have to introduce our other guests like
I did.
from people
Nelson Celis
of
of
Automated Election
Election
System Watch,
Watch.
ICE Watch, AES Watch.
and Toti Casiño, former president of the Philippine Computer Society and a candidate in the recent election. So,
we can ask.
there's a process involved. The election is an electoral exercise,
Yes.
and there is a process, voting to the proclamation. We have not reached the proclamation stage, but the voting has been done, and there is already partial and official, and in fact there are official results already coming out, and in fact candidates have already been proclaimed, especially in the local and even congressional level. So we're focusing on the process. Is the process election process honest and credible?
Can we ask ICE Watch, Professor, the spokesperson, Professor Melchor, to react to that?
Yeah, as far as ICE Watch is concerned, the process, and even in complying with the law, in implementing the automated election system, we found it that the process was not compliant with the automated election system law, or Republic Act 9369. Why? Number one, we all know that there was no digital signature. No? That has been there. That has been a problem, issue since 2008. Even though the Commission on Elections in 2003 implemented the digital signatures. No? So there is a conflict between the leadership from 2010 and the leadership in 2003, because the 2003 leaders believed in digital signing. And then there was this issue last night, that the 6 o'clock results was stalled at 6 o'clock, and then the results were released itong madaling araw, no? Pero kung titignan mo, bakit nagkaroon ng problema dito sa transparency server dito sa PPCRB? Nasa batas po ng Section 13, dapat merong continuity plan ang Commission on Elections. Ito ay hindi natupad ng COMELEC. In fact, dapat 2 weeks or 15 days before the elections, pinablis ng COMELEC ang continuity plan sa dalawang newspapers, national newspapers, at sa COMELEC website. No? So hindi tama ang ginawa ng Commission on Elections na naputol na bigla, no? Yung pag-release ng election results noong 6 o'clock. At marami pa pong iba na sa palagay namin, hindi sumunod ang ating Commission on Elections sa pagpapatupad ng Automated Election System Law at paano i-implement ito properly. Mamaya pwede natin i-discuss ang detalye. No?
Professor?
Yeah.
Yeah, same question.
It's good that the Senator mentioned the Omnibus Election Code that under Batas Pambansa bilang 881, which was ratified in December of 1985. Section 5 and Section 6 defines clearly postponement of election, also failure of election. And in the tenor of the law, it says that any instance that there are, for whatever, force majeure, violence, terrorism, or any analogous cause, the word analogous cause, of any election paraphernalia that happens before, during, or even after the election would constitute a failure of the election. Now, we have witnessed
What's the section in
Section 5 and 6 of Batas Pambansa 881.
is that the prevailing law?
That is still in effect because it's never been amended, that particular provision.
And that section 5 states that.
States that any incidents of whether it's force majeure, violence, terrorism, or any analogous cause that would cause any election paraphernalia to fail, to perform its functions, its duty, before, during, or even after the election, are grounds for it to be declared as a failure of elections. Now,
Whether national or local.
yes, it covers practically everything. That's why it's called Omnibus Election Code. Now, we saw on major news yesterday that reports of failures of the BCMs, failures of the SD cards. There are instances some political candidates have to wait for 4 or 5 hours because the machine was not functioning. There was one candidate who had to go to COMELEC because his ballot was rejected. Already signs, evidence is proving that here are lapses in the operation of the election. And it's already granted. And later on, none other than the National Board of Canvassers suspended the canvassing till supposedly today by 1 p.m. However, they came up with the first, from the what Nelson was saying earlier, from the first time that they published the results at 6:15 or 6:10, which is barely 10 minutes right after the closing of the polling precincts. There were no other update until 1:40 the next day. Now, in technology, in IT, that is highly questionable and highly irregular because as you scan the ballot, the counting of the machine is already ongoing. It is captured in a cache memory. So by the end of the polling, as the polling closes, instantly, as a press of a button, the results will be generated instantaneously. And as what Nelson was saying, since way back in 2010, under Republic Act 9369, which is the amended automated election system law, it says that only the electronically transmitted and digitally signed results shall be used for canvassing and proclaiming the winner. And we have been attesting in the civil society that COMELEC has failed to comply with the industry standard of digital signing. So how come at the end, as what was shared by Chairman Butch, how come by 1:40, all of a sudden, here are the results, numbering already like 70% of the voter turnout at a very high range. So from the technology standpoint, there is a big probability, a window for data to be tampered and manipulated from the hours of 6:15 p.m. until the next morning, 7 hours thereafter at 1:40 a.m. So COMELEC must account to the public what has transpired during that period. If they can come up with the random manual audit as well, how come there was no continuity plan, just like any system that you would install, that in any event that there's a failure, there's always a backup procedure. None of those were being expressed by COMELEC, which is required by law. None of this has been prescribed by the Technical Evaluation Committee as prescribed by law. And to us, to accept this as smooth and academic is far remote. Now, if you deal with the numbers, with the 24 million, the highest candidate getting that number, the next number is 23 million, the next number is 21 million. Out of 63 million registered voters, it shows that 1 out of 2 voters favored those particular candidates. It is highly improbable by sheer numbers that is the kind of result that any candidate would garner. Maybe 1 out of 9 voters would vouch for that candidate. But 1 out of 2 candidates, 1 out of 2 voters would vouch for that 1 or 2 or 3 candidates is highly, extremely too high that it seems that practically it's even higher than the president right now. So answer to your question, Senator, how do we look at this? Here are direct manifestations that the public can see that we would question how come COMELEC is still not declaring it as a failure election.
So what will you do if you believe that there's failure of election? What do you intend to do?
Under the section 6, there must be a petition filed by interested party.
Are you going to file?
Well, we have to discuss that among ourselves. If we're going to pursue that, or maybe civil society. It did not specify in that law whether it has to become from a political party. It just said any interested party.
Yes. So personally, will you
Yes.
are you decided to file?
Likely we will. We just have to arrange our arguments.
Meaning we, the KDP.
KDP, probably even Philippine Cooper Society, probably even with AES Watch.
Okay. Now, the reason why I asked earlier about Section 5 that you referred to as basis for petitioning that this recent election was should be declared as a failure. There are 83,000 precincts, cluster precincts, with just one failure in one precinct or two failure in one and two precincts, 10% failure in or 10% of the 83,000 precincts were marred with certain irregularities. Will that suffice to ask the Commission on Election to declare failure of election?
Before Professor Toti will answer that, let me inform our friends in media that Professor Toti Casiño is an IT expert. He's not just a candidate for senator this 2019. Like, he was also the former president of the Philippine Computer Society. Professor.
Thank you. And thank you for the question. What would constitute as a major failure is for the failure of each of these VCMs to transmit the results and post it on the website. Because under the Republic...
Does it have to be 83,000 precincts transmitting 100% from the VCM to the
transparency server.
To the transparency server?
Correct.
That is the rule.
Yes.
You claim that that's the rule.
Because according to the law, after you print the 8th copy, you are supposed immediately, the word it says immediately, within 1 hour, all Board of Election inspectors must electronically transmit and digitally sign. And then later on, you can see through that the particular law under Republic Act 9369 that it must be posted on a website for everybody to see, and the printout to be posted on a wall for everybody to see. So those are two parallel activities that must occur during transmission. Now, the failure that was accounted for by the COMELEC is the failure to transmit the results.
Okay.
Now, if you look at it on a national scale, because there were no updates on the website, and later on, COMELEC declared a suspension of the canvassing, and for the next 7 hours, no figures were present on mainstream media as well as the website. In fact, COMELEC at one point in time, website was hacked.
Okay. Is it
That already constitutes a failure.
all the media outlets through their anchors were always referring to the problem of COMELEC unable to transfer or transmit to the transparency server the result of the election in the precincts. Is that a correct statement? Isn't it that the VCM, from the VCM, the election, the result of the precinct election is directly transmitted to the transparency server? Does it have to go to COMELEC and then transmitted to the transparency server in Popayos?
Okay.
near Pope Pius.
Okay.
That has to be clarified.
Right,
Is
right.
it correct that it has to come from the COMELEC or from the BCM direct, the transmission?
Okay. In this case, the BCM is now considered as the polling precinct.
That's right.
Because it's the one that accepts the
Yeah,
ballot.
yeah. The result from the
result.
BCM.
Right. So,
Where should it be transmitted? Remember, to the municipal canvas, city canvas, provincial canvas,
right,
the national canvas.
right.
And the national canvas is the one that's COMELEC, right?
Correct, correct.
And then, what's the role of the transparency server? Does it have to wait for the result coming from the COMELEC or from the VCM? It goes direct also
Okay.
to the transparency server.
In the 2010, 2013, and 2016 scenario, where we're still dealing with the same provider, they would be transmitting one to the central server, call it the transparency server. At the time, they just classified it as central server, and then later on in 2013, they call it transparency server. And also, as you were saying, to the municipal, then to the provincial, and to the national. So that way, it can go
Simultaneously. Again, going back, does COMELEC have its own, and then
Yes,
what's
yes.
the difference between the transparency server and the national canvassing board?
The transparency server, as what was declared by the COMELEC, will be used for media.
That's right.
Yeah, for everybody. It should reflect the same figures of the central server.
Again, let me repeat the question. Does it receive its own transmitted election return separate from the COMELEC canvassing?
It should receive the same, yes. To answer the question, yes.
So it's not the COMELEC transmitting it to the transparency server.
No.
But the way it has been reported in the media,
Yeah,
the problem is COMELEC failed to transmit.
correct. Now, I think the question of the good senator is quite appropriate. No? If it's a transparency server, from the BCM, it can go direct to the transparency server.
It can or it
does-
should go.
Well, it can. The problem
No.
here is it can.
It should.
That's right.
Under
It should.
It
But
should.
the rules of the game is being made by COMELEC.
No.
Yeah.
Let's go to the book.
I follow your.
Let's go to the book. From the BCM, does it go direct also to the transparency center?
That's it.
No.
It goes
past
first
the
to
COMELEC.
So the report is correct.
Yes.
So it goes to first to COMELEC and then
To the transparency server.
how can you have a comparison now? If the source, the result
Okay.
from the unofficial should tally with the official.
Okay.
So, if you're saying that the BCM transmits first to the COMELEC, and COMELEC shares it with the transparency server, then what's the point of comparison here?
Because you have to remember also, the sequence of transmission in the normal scenario is it goes hierarchical, meaning from the polling precinct to the city municipal, we gather all the totals from the different polling centers, and then you consolidate that, that's what you call canvassing. And then the totals from the municipality belonging to the province, you transmit that to the next level, which is the provincial, and you gather all the totals for the different city totals, municipality for the provincial, and then you transmit the national. Now the national is always gathered in every step of the way. That is in the normal, that is the format as defined in the Omnibus Election Code. In the Republic Act 1969, it is silent about having COMELEC as a central server. The tenor of the law says, as stated in the Omnibus Election, to transmit it as stated in the Omnibus Election Code, which is hierarchical. Now, since 2010, COMELEC introduced the concept of having its own central server, thinking that it should have a backup, it has to have immediately access to all the results from the polling precincts to the city, to the provincial, up to the national, for their own control purposes. But that is not stated in the law. That is what's stated in the COMELEC Memorandum Circular Resolution, so and so, which was carried from 2010, 2013, and 2016. In 2013, they introduced the transparency server, where they're going to get the totals from the COMELEC central server to the transparency server. How will you be able to compare? The idea there, according to the letter of the law, Republic Act 1969, is that every source should be reflected on the website, which COMELEC did not comply in 2010. That's why, but they did not even let that website stay for 3 years. Although the law requires that it should be there for 3 years, only for about a few months that they took down the website. And even today, there is no website in COMELEC that shows you the totals for every city level. It's not even present to this day. But it's specific in the law that just like what you see in the Omnibus Election Code, every city all the totals per city must be reflected on the website. And that way, answer to your question, Mr. Senator, how can you compare what is in the central server and the transparency server? Based on what is posted on the website, everybody can compare the printout and let the volunteers gather all the printout, which is allowed by law, to capture that using a camera, and then see whether the totals for that particular city or municipality is equal to the electronic returns that they have captured. And then they can see whether it also has the same. And then the same thing goes for the certificate of canvas captured from every city to the provincial total.
So there is nothing in the AES law that says all election return from each VCM will go to a central server. It has to be hierarchical.
As according to the Omnibus Election Code.
So from the VCM in its precinct, in a municipality, all the election returns first go to the municipal canvassing. Okay?
Yes.
So that you will know immediately who won for the mayoralty and vice mayor for the municipal.
And you also carry
and
the
then,
provincial total also with that.
Yes.
And the national totals also.
But from the municipal,
yeah, you can already proclaim.
You can already proclaim.
Provided it is digitally signed.
Yeah, and then the city, the same.
Right.
Okay. But the provincial will have to wait for the municipal canvass.
Correct.
So nothing in the system that says the election return goes directly.
There is nothing in the law.
There is nothing in the law. But is it being done?
The direct?
The direct?
Yes, since 2010.
But there's nothing in the law.
There's nothing in the law.
So from the 83,000 precincts, theoretically, each BCM will shoot and send the result of the election in the precinct to the central server.
Correct.
Okay, so the central server can gather all of this immediately.
Yes.
And then share this, post the result on a regular basis on the website, and also share the information with the transparency server.
Right.
Okay. Now, my question, Chairman Butch, is this: you're a political party. How long has your political party been organized? Do you have in your organization, do you have manpower in each 83,000 voting precincts? No? To get a copy of the election return, and so that at the end of the day, if you want to assess the result of the election, compare the result in the election return, right, with the total, if it's for national, with the total in the senatorial elections. Do you have that?
No, we don't have that
organization?
manpower for the 83,000 precincts, Senator. We have a few because we've started only last year, but I would say maybe less than 10% of these 83,000 precincts are manned by our people. We are complete, however, in the canvassing center, and in certain other districts as well. But in the 83,000 precincts, we cannot say that we have. I would say maybe about 8,000 or less of these precincts are manned by our people right now.
Are you entitled with that ER copy as a political party?
As of now, no, we're not entitled. We're not considered a dominant party.
Of
this
the
is-
30, there are 30 ERs. You can get a copy.
Yes, yes.
Because only 8 are for mandatory.
Mm.
Eight entities will receive, including the dominant minority, the COMELEC, the provincial, the city, the municipal, canvassing board, the citizens' arm, and then the next 22 copies, you can get a copy. Now, my point in asking this is this: at the end of the day, the battle is in the precinct. If an entity is organized that he can also replicate what sabihin na natin, what COMELEC central server can do, that you mark all the 83,000 precincts. This is your MATA SA BALOTA project. You get a picture of the result of the election return, and then consolidate all of this in your central headquarters from all over the place. Then you can also find out, this is what you call substantial compliance as against procedural imperfection. Assuming in the process there is imperfection, there are errors in the process. But if on substance, based on your own election return, the copy reflects also what is in the central server, then COMELEC can always say, you have all the chances of checking whether the result of the election is really honest or not, because you are given all the chances to get a copy of your election return and compare these election returns with the ones that have been submitted or that have been received by the Commission on Election. Can you address that concern? Because we can go and really discuss details of procedures. But even in law, there is what you call substantial compliance. I'll give you one example. If the margin in a contest is huge, and there are still 3 SD cards, or 5, or even 10, but if you combine the votes in this 10, they are very small compared to the margin already existing between the number 1 candidate and the number 2 candidate. The COMELEC can already declare the winning candidate as the winner, even if all the precinct results have not yet been accounted for. That you call substantial compliance. You can already proclaim. So at the end of the day, parties will question you. Hey, you're talking about procedures. Okay, fine. There are defects in compliance. But the substance is, this guy really won based on the election return.
Yes. Can we ask Ice Watch?
No, I just
Yeah.
wanted to add that.
Sir,
I agree that maybe we should have, I should say, substantial compliance. And if we don't have 83,000 watchers, in the precincts, the onus is upon us to prove that there was an anomaly in this whatever precincts there are. But lacking that, maybe there are other ways. For example, like checking the statistical probability of such winners. There are other procedures that are also being checked, not necessarily in the precinct level, but in the canvassing level. If there are violations of law in certain other procedures, we can bring this out. Now, if there are enough of these other issues that don't necessarily mean precinct. No? If it is substantial enough, I think there is a reason for us to be able to bring up our cause. No? And what we're saying, I also wanted to differentiate between the election process and the electoral process. The electoral process starts with the campaign. It starts with what the general public is afraid of, which is called mind conditioning. And this is a reality that we have seen in all the previous elections.
Anywhere in the world, each one
Yes.
in a democratic setup, a party will always try to do some brinkmanship and
Yes.
create a scenario where a party is already dominating or is already influencing the minds of the people.
Yeah, but fake news is different.
Remember, you will have several surveys. Each one has its own survey.
Yes,
It's
correct.
it's a brinkmanship. I mean,
What you call brinkmanship, Senator, is what the public calls mind conditioning, trend setting. And if there is a conspiracy between the survey companies and the mainstream media and all the other things that put into place, then there is a effort wherein there could be an effort wherein the results, the so-called results of the election, can be predetermined. And this is what the public is so scared about, that their right to suffrage might have been impaired by something that could have been done earlier. Now, I'm not saying that it's always done. I'm not saying that this was done in this place. But the public always has to have that prerogative to complain and be wary of such developments. We might call it a democratic process. If democratic process means being able to use certain things to condition the mind of the public, then maybe we are a bit too democratic. This is my question.
this is war. Everything is fair. I'm just putting it bluntly. I mean, I am with you in your own sentiments. But this is war. That's the reality of the fight. So at the end of the day, what will really be more telling was there cheating. Okay? Was the result of the precinct vote not reflective of the will of the people who went to that precinct? Okay? Whether their mind has been conditioned, whether they have been paid or not, that's another matter altogether. Okay? But the process, first let us go through the process. If the election process was followed, okay, substantially, I'm saying substantially. By the way, the BBPAT, I got my BBPAT. I saw the names of the candidates that I voted for. Okay, I scrutinized it, and the machine gave me a receipt that showed all the names. I'm not sure if this is true for all. I'm not saying that, no. But as far as my precinct is concerned, that's what the receipt that was issued, that came out of the voting machine. It was a reflection of what I wrote in the ballot. I shaded. So at the end of the day, as I said, brass tacks. Go to the brass tacks. Was the election and the precinct fair? I mean, was it honest? And then the election returned. Okay? Did the machine really churn out the election return based on the votes of the people in that precinct? Okay? So, okay, lacking digital signature. It can be argued till kingdom come, but that's a violation of the omnibus election code. But there is no jurisprudence on that, except for BBPAT. There is an order by the court to really produce. And I think COMELEC produced the BBPAT, right? Is this the same BBPAT? You said it's only BB, not PAT, before. But here, it's really a receipt showing the list of candidates. In 2016, I did not receive a receipt. I did not receive a receipt.
Maybe Sen, to further elucidate and shed light on that point of yours, no? We have here another guest who, let's say, stormed the COMELEC yesterday afternoon after a certain issues was, and then we're now talking about processes of the law. Now we hear a lot of talks right now outside about failure of elections and so on and so forth. Maybe let's call on another guest to join us here, and maybe he can further elucidate. Can we call Attorney Chong up the stage to help us discuss this particular issue? And maybe you can answer, if you wish to. The question is there a basis for any declaration of failure of election or maybe cheating in the election whatsoever? Attorney Chong.
Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. The question is if there's a basis
For petition or declaration of failure of election because of what happened yesterday, and probably earlier we're talking about certain violations on the implementation of the laws, the procedural thing.
insofar as failure of elections is concerned. I think there's no legal basis to declare failure of elections, but yung walang technical evaluation committee certification, kasi walang binigay ang TEC the certification that the automated election system is operating properly, securely, and accurately. I remember now, those are the words.
What is a TEC?
Section, Technical Evaluation Committee of the Department of Science and Technology. The law in Section 11 of Republic Act 9369 specifically requires that the TEC must issue a certification that the automated election system is operating properly, securely, and accurately. So properly, securely, and accurately within 60 days before the elections. Other 3 months, 90 days before the elections. So according to Professor Celis, walang in-issue na certification ng TEC. So that can be a ground to question the legality of the election. Because without that certification of the TEC, wala tayong kasiguruhan that the election system was operating properly, securely, and accurately. So, given that, on my experience kahapon doon sa MATA SA BALOTA, we were there, nag-operate kami, we have a team of 24 operators. We have 6 globe and 6 smart numbers that we distributed across the country. And true enough, reports were coming in from the field, sir. The first one we got was from Motala East, Barangay Motala East, Balesteros in Cagayan Province. Ang report niya is, marami dito ang nagre-reklamo because lumabas yung resibo, wala ang pangalan mo, although binoto ka. I mean, ako, they're referring to me. Binoto si Chong pero hindi lumabas sa resibo. Then this was followed in Biliran by a woman. Nasa Facebook ko po yung video niya. I know her personally. Ang binoto niya si Marojas at si Chong. Ang nasa resibo si Marojas lang. Then a while later, may isa naman, ang binoto si Chong, ang lumabas si Nery Colmenares. Then this was followed in Manila. Dito sa Manila, tinawag din sa amin ng Butante. Ang binoto niya si Chong, ang lumabas Nery Colmenares again. Then in Batangas, Chong, ang lumabas Gary Alejano, similar to the one in Hong Kong. So meron siyang similarity, repetition. Dalawang Colmenares, dalawang Alejano that we are able to know. Then the other one in Iloilo, binoto niya si Chong, walang lumabas sa resibo. And the one in Cagayan, sir, is a very educated person. He's a leader of a group. Malaking grupo yan sila. Ang binoto niya si Chong, ang lumabas si Attorney Mar Arias.
Are you being singled out, Attorney Chong, because you have been the most vocal of all the critics of the Commission on Election?
Sir, I have I've been very vocal and very frontal about this battle against COMELEC and Smartmatic. So ang tingin ko po, with these 2.2 million votes na ni-report nila, they really put me dito sa baba na boto to discredit me para sasabihin nila konti lang nakikinig sa kanya. And at the same time, yung political cloud, yung leverage, political leverage ko, i-sideline nila. But then, kahapon po, before nag-start yung transmission, mga 5 o'clock, I was already there at PICC to register formally, I mean informally at least, for the time being, kasi wala akong hawak na papel. So, kinausap ko si James Jimenez, ang atang yung deputy niya, na ito ang nangyayari. And then I faced the media kahapon, at sinabi ko, itong nangyayari, these are what we have observed. But so far kasi po, sa lahat po ng kandidato na tumakbo, yung kami lang ang may infrastructure. Yung sa MATA SA BALOTA lang kasi naka-sideline, naka-side ship ako doon sa MATA SA BALOTA. So kami lang po ang may infrastructure to know what's going on in the field. As a matter of fact, nung sinabi ko kay James Jimenez na hindi ako naniniwala na 400, 600 machines lang ang nasira on election day. Hindi ako naniniwala 400, 600 because we have already recorded 36 provinces and two cities in Metro Manila na may problema yung VCM, na nasira yung VCM, nasira yung SD card, o ang VCM hindi nagbibigay ng resibo. So, under the existing rule kasi, kapag nasira ang VCM or ang makina, people will vote and then the BEI alone will insert the ballots. So, wala na pong capacity, wala na pong capacity ang botante na i-verify niya yung boto niya doon sa kanyang resibo. Wala na pong verification nun kasi it's the BEI alone who is inserting the ballots.
Yeah, wala na rin yung resibo.
Yes, sir. And then, ang sinabi ni James Jimenez, hindi lang 600, actually 1,000 na ang nasira. 1,000 on election day. In 2016, sir, it's only 200. Now, it's 1,000 and even more. 1,000 is already 500% more than in 2016. And kagabi po, nung pinasok na po nila, remember, walang resulta lumabas from 6:15 in the evening until 1:19 in the...
At the end of the day, 1, 2, 3, 100 cases. But you are confronted with a bigger result. The COMELEC can just say, 100 lang yan. Kahit dagdag mo yan, wala naman diferensya. Okay? Now, my point is this, and I already asked Butch. Ito, biyera ito eh. Okay. Just the number of BCMs that got destroyed or that became out of order or SD cards
Yes, sir.
that malfunction. There are 83,000 plus BCMs. Is there no organization that can challenge the COMELEC that says, hindi lang 1,000, 9,000 ang sira?
Yes, sir.
Meaning, at the end of the day, the troops on the ground will execute the affidavit. Sira ito eh. Sira ka sa amin. Sira, etc., etc. Sira. Number 2, because nasira, hindi na natanggap yung
Voter receipt.
BB PAT.
Yes.
I think if we have that kind of massive information backed up by testimonials, including affidavits, then Toti's Section 5 of the Omnibus Election Code can be used if we have all of this available. As I said, this is gera eh. Gera ito eh. Gera. Because at the end of the day, if the COMELEC said, anecdotal, okay, you submit your affidavit in all those cases that you are referring to. But against the universe, it's a small amount. It's a small amount of irregularities. So how can you prove that there is massive, sabihin na natin, irregularities, not necessarily cheating, but as far as you're concerned, it's cheating because the voter voted for you, but the receipt did not show your name. That's cheating. Okay? But how do we prove that there is such massive cheating if you don't have enough testimonials and affidavits? We are both lawyers at the end of the day. That is
Yes,
what
sir.
will be required of us to submit.
If I may answer that, Senator, the incident that happened yesterday, specifically with reference to Atty. Glenn's case, that happened already in 2010. In 2010, during the final testing and sealing, if you can remember it right, there was this final testing and sealing, and just to give a specific case, like in Makati, the boats of Lina and Mercado went to Henrino
In 2010.
in 2010. So what did the COMELEC do after that? Because it happened not only in Makati, but throughout the Philippines, from Batanes to Basilan. The Picos machines, which is now called BCMs, did not count properly during the final testing and sealing. So they retrieved all the SD cards or the compact flash cards. It was called like that. So to us, when you analyze that, how can you retrieve all those 76,000 CF cards in a 1 week time and then test it and certify it by the Technical Evaluation Committee and return it back to the precincts? You cannot do that in a week's time, maybe in a month's time. So this incident in 2010 also happened in 2019. As cited by Senator Lina, yung 1,000 na nasira could be even higher. Kasi if I can remember it right, sabi ni James Jimenez nung Thursday, he said, there were 500 corrupted SD cards. The following day, naging 700. Tapos naging 1,000. Pero sinasabi namin sa ISCONS, hindi lang yan libo-libo nangyari. Kasi nangyari din yan sa, sa embahada, sa mga embahada, dahil lahat ng mga makinang pinadala doon, walang certification ng DOST o ng Technical Evaluation Committee. So lahat ng 85,000 na yung corrupted. Because meron ng president eh. Meron ng president yan. So, bakit walang Technical Evaluation Committee certification na nakasaad doon sa Section 11 ng RA 9369 or the Automated Election System Law? Ang theory namin dyan, dahil ang DOST, these are, shall we say, very professional people. No? Hindi nila ilalagay yung kanilang pangalan doon para pirmahan isang sistema na defective. Na? Bakit ko isusulat ang certification, nandun yung DOS, ilalagay ko yung certification, pipirmahan ko yan, defective naman yung mga makina. So, you're at stake yung pangalan ng Department of Science and Technology dyan. 3 months before the elections, February 13, dapat yun, certified na ng TEC. Pero, adamant sila to certify because the system is defective. So, for us, if we analyze that, this had happened already before. Nakita natin yung kaso ni Atty. Glenn Chong, binoto siya pero iba yung lumalabas. Nangyari din yan in the past. So the main argument ng COMELEC noon, i-retrieve natin lahat ng 76,000 dahil defective. So, naniniwala kami na yung TEC, hindi sila naglabas ng certification because they don't want to put their name at stake. Because these people are professionals. So what do you expect? Isi-certify dapat ng DOST, ng TEC, source code. Under the law, under Section 11. Isi-certify nila yung audit. How accurate are these machines counting? Isi-certify nila yung contingency. Lahat po ito, lahat ng technical measures or technical provisions in the law, isi-certify po ng Department of Science and Technology, being the head of the TEC. Hindi nila ilalagay yung mga pangalan nila dyan para lang masabi ng COMELEC, ayan, may certification si DOST, yung TEC. Libre na kami sa any liability. Hindi po. Hindi nila pinipirmahan yan. Magmula pa ng 2010, in fact, 2008, 10, 13, 16. Dahil ayaw nilang mabahiran ng kahit anuman yan. No? Because these are anomalies na nangyayari. Ilang Senator Lina, masasabi ko dyan, no? Dahil hindi lang isa, dalawa, 1,000. Marami nangyayari dyan. Sa tingin namin, madami yan.
Dr. Celis, let me ask you a blunt question. Did you not expect all of this to happen?
I already
You have been
explained.
writing about
Yes.
it for the longest time. Are those groups sympathetic to you? And I'm one of them. Did these groups mobilize enough manpower to document all of the exact details of the effects of this non-TEC evaluation? Because these are already the telltale signs of things that are going to happen. Okay? Do we have, as I said, this is going to be war. The powers that be have their own agenda, and they will pursue the agenda to its logical conclusion. No ifs and buts about it. But has there been enough mobilization of manpower so that we just do not say 1,000 had been corrupted, BCM, etc. But it's actually 10,000 or it's actually 15,000 based on hard evidence, testimonial, and affidavit. I'm not saying all of those observations are nothing, that there is no TEC evaluation, there is no digital signature, there is actual, because there is no audit of the machine itself. The names that are coming out are not reflective of the voters' vote. No? At the end of the day, the status quo will protect itself. In 1986, the protest against Marcos was really very, very strong because people felt that the election had been rigged in favor of Mr. Marcos. And there was widespread protest that culminated in EDSA 1. But do you see this pent up or emotion being exhibited by the masses of our people that the election had been rigged?
Let me go to your analogy of war. We are in a war of words, propaganda. As we really look at the terrain, the battlefield is being occupied by those who would like the powers that be. Plainly, we're talking of mainstream media. You're talking of the big three broadcasting stations controlled by the powers that be, TV and radio. Talk about mainstream newspapers controlled by the powers that be. But what we have gained here, now that we have participated in this battle that KDP was able to farm out some candidates, we have now conquered some few territories that now people are aware that there is truth to what we've been claiming as a civil society, apolitical and non-partisan in the past 3 elections, 2010, 2013, 2016. But now in 2019, KDP is the only political party that has been saying that there is fraud in election, and that is part of the platform of campaign. And because of this, there are now voters who have never understood this, who have never heard of this, are now aware. And we see this as a gain rather than a loss. And we're slowly gaining more grounds, as we can see, just like Vietnam War. If they say, we can't win it this year, we'll try it next year. If we don't win it next year, we'll try it the year after. And we go on and on and on until we're able to gain what has been lost, what has been stolen from our people, which is our democracy, our freedom of choice, and justice. So this is a learning exercise for us, understanding the political realm, as you're a seasoned politician yourself, Senator. And we are understanding the mechanics. We're understanding that yes, we need the machinery. Yes, we need mobilization. Yes, we need substantial evidence. And slowly, not necessarily on social media, we could probably get. And to add more, social media has also its advances. Thanks to technology, we're now broadcast worldwide. Unlike before, it was really painstakingly moving inches by inches. But now, we're moving leaps and bounds. And in a matter of a few hours, days, you could probably capture the imaginations of a greater number.
Well, I congratulate you for your idealism, and I hope you maintain that. The battle may have been, well, not yet lost, but it seems not in favor of those who share your idealism. But the war is not yet over. The battle may be lost, but the war is not yet over. And therefore, moving forward, stronger voices must be heard to shout out loud all these transgressions that you have enumerated, digital signature, the lack of audit, the TEC, lack of the TEC evaluation, and all of that. Now, maybe one major question is, aside from the direction of filing a petition, if there is a ground to file a petition for declaration of nullity of election, will you file cases against COMELEC officials who are supposed to implement the law but fail to implement the law? And I heard many concrete violations of the Omnibus Election Code and the AES law. Will the COMELEC officials responsible for non-implementation of the laws be made to account for said violations?
Yes, we did already in 2010. We also did that in 2013. And so many other cases that were filed, not only in the Ombudsman but also in the Supreme Court. But these cases were not heard.
Are they
Unfortunately, especially in the Ombudsman.
They're still pending?
Still pending, and we were not given any notice why our cases filed, specifically also in the Ombudsman, were not heard. So we filed petitions against the Commission of Elections, against the Smartmatic, and those who are part in the implementation of the project of the AES. In fact, the group is now converging again, really, to analyze on what particular grounds that we could already file against the non-compliances, irregularities in these 2019 elections. If we can remember it right, there was this two privileged speeches of Senator Soto, the Senate President, in March of 2018, and he said that there were irregularities in 2016 elections. And he said that such irregularities would mean election sabotage. But we need to investigate. But there was investigation. Only happened twice in this year. The last one was April 8, under the TWG, or Technical Working Group of the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee, concluding that there was early transmission, there were queuing server, and so many other irregularities. Even the Smartmatic official was also present in that TWG meeting. And we were expecting last week of April that the TWG, of course, would have already submitted their conclusion on the particular meeting, but no joint congressional oversight committee was heard. So we're saying that we already saw that this thing is coming because it happened in 2008, 10, 13, 16, and 2019. And there's also a big influence on the part of the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee. Seldom that this committee conducts meeting. That's another thing. That's why most of the recommendations, especially by the Advisory Council, COMELEC Advisory Council is headed by the Department of Information and Communications Technology. In fact, the person that was appointed by President Digong as Secretary of the ICT was Secretary Lina. And Secretary Lina at the time, sometime in 2007, recommended that for 2019 election, we should have mixed technologies, meaning we should not be relying on Smartmatic. So there were demonstrations of technologies made by Filipinos and other service providers. But what did the Commission on Elections and even the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee did with the recommendation of the DICT? None. The Advisory Council is composed of technocrats. So Secretary Lima being an appointee of President Digong, we were questioning ourselves, ito na nga, appointee na nga ni President Digong. May mga recommendations na. Bakit yung COMELEC hindi gumagalaw? And then, ito naman, sinasabit dito sa Joint Congressional Oversight Committee. Bakit hindi pinapansin ng Joint Congressional Oversight Committee? And then, pinag-uusapan din, why is the implementing rules and regulations under the law have not been promulgated by the Commission on Elections since 1997. That's already 22 years.
Dr. Celis,
Yeah. It's very
maybe,
frustrating.
maybe you're fighting within the box. Maybe the fight is out of the box.
I agree with you, Senator.
Meaning, at the end of the day, numbers matter.
Agree.
But having said that, quality of number also is more significant. You can a 5,000 army can defeat 100,000 army if the 5,000 army knows what to do, has the right strategy and tactics. I've been reading you and hearing you. I'm still impressed that you have not waved the white flag, but maybe it's out of the box that we should all be, because numbers can move people. Politicians move because of numbers. So maybe organizing nationwide between now and the next election should be the lesson that we should learn. Although this is just one of the battles. The war is still continuing, but maybe different strategy has to be employed.
So, speaking about knowledge out of the box and all these things, no? There are now rampant talks about problems, irregularities of elections. We are now talking about certain bases, the law itself and what happened yesterday. The question right now that I would like to ask our resource persons here is this, no? Is there any plans to file any legal actions based on, number one, violations of the law, the processes of the law as you were explaining here. And number two, maybe as an outcome of what happened yesterday in the overseas voting, no? If there is any plans to file any action, legal action, what kind of action will this be? What will the action be? Is it filing a case or based on failure of elections? Now, or other things that you might even think of. Number two, where will these legal actions be filed? Will it be filed in the Supreme Court based on questions of law, or will it be filed in other government agencies? No? Quo vadis? Can each and every resource person react on this? Let's start with Chairman Butch, then Attorney Glenn, then Professor Nelson, Professor Toti.
Well, based on your question, I just wanted to add that there is another aspect here which may not have been discussed because it does not refer to the election process itself. It's the constitutionality of the whole issue. We have been advised even before, as early as 2010, that we should bring up the constitutional issue of COMELEC's delegating part of its functions to another party.
To a foreign.
Much worse, to a foreign. Much worse to a foreign entity. Because his interpretation, and I'm talking of Merlin Magallon, who was supposed to be a constitutional lawyer, and he said that his interpretation of the law is of the constitutional law is that the COMELEC is mandated to be responsible for all elections, all the way to the barangay level. And he uses the word uniquely and original responsibility and something there as the very words that says that they cannot delegate this. However, in 2010, somehow it was allowed by the Supreme Court with certain conditions, which those conditions were not met anyway. And so we're really seriously thinking about refiling this issue on the Supreme Court, to the Supreme Court, on the constitutionality. And we think this is much more fundamental than the election process cheating issues. Because this is done in tandem. The election issues are done in tandem with the smart money. And if the provider, if Smartmatic were not around, maybe we'll be able to handle this a bit better. Especially if we know the real background of the provider which we have used. We know the background of these guys. So internationally, they have a reputation. So
Bad is good reputation.
pretty bad. So we should look into this as a people, and take this as an issue in the Supreme Court, and finally do away with having it. Now, if it's Filipinos versus Filipinos, maybe the numbers, as the good senator has been suggesting, might work. And this, I just wanted to share this with everybody.
With respect to action,
Yes.
with respect to the lack of TAC certification, that's a ground to file a petition with the Supreme Court on questions of law, whether or not the elections can legally proceed without a TEC certification, because that is supposed to be a seal of assurance for the public. Pag mayroong TEC certification mula sa DOST na automated election system is operating accurately, properly, securely, then that is a seal of confidence on the part of, that bolsters the confidence of the public na pwede natin pagkatiwalaan itong sistemang ito. But without that seal, wala ka po talaga pagkakatiwalaan dyan, especially because the reputation of Smartmatic is so bad. So that's why any group can file a petition in the Supreme Court questioning the legality of the elections on questions of law. And with respect to yung sabi ni Senator, yung magbuo ng grupo or political party, whatever that is, it could be a group, it could be a party, as a way to move this issue forward. I think that's worth a try. That's worth a try because so far kasi, yung pagkikipaglaban natin sa Smartmatic, kanya-kanya tayo. May grupo ka MATA SA BALOTA, may grupo siya ISWAS, ako lone wolf, KDP, KDP hindi. Bago lang yan, bago lang na political party ang KDP. So, but if we band together, lahat ng kalaban ng Smartmatic, lahat ng taong gusto maging malaya tayo laban sa mga makina ito, magkaisa tayo sa isang grupo lang. Palakihin natin yung grupo na yun, down to the grassroots level. Actually, the idea was given to me kanina in a text. Tinext ako ng isang kaibigan. Because of the elections na short lang yung campaign period. But that campaign period could be a jumping board to get people to coalesce together. Magkaisa tayong lahat. Hindi, siguro, simula ngayon, lahat ng taong bumoto sa akin, bumoto sa KDP, magkaisa tayong lahat. Let's form into one organization na ang tanging or purpose lang ay patalsikin si Smartmatic, tanggalin si Smartmatic and make it liable. Kung kailangan pumunta tayo sa labas, magpakita tayo ng war bodies at some point in time, gawin natin yan. Kasi alam naman natin sa ating political system, there are political interests. There are political interests. But igagalang tayo, papakinggan tayo kung meron tayong maraming war bodies. And that's what we aim to do. I think that's what we should aim to do.
Professor.
Yeah, I agree with Senator Lina and the comments of Chairman Butch and Atty. Glenn. But I would like to share also, with due respect to those who do not believe in federalism, because I was a resource person during the Federal Constitution hearing, only on the aspect of electoral reform. So I presented my case, all these cases from 2008 to 2016, and even 2003, 2004, and 1997. So the bottom line of my presentation was that our elections should be done publicly in evidencing. This is what you call public counting. Whether it is manually counted or computer aided. And the chairman then, the former Chief Justice Bull, I can remember that Senator Pimentel was on his right. There were at least around 20 commissioners in that hearing, and they told me this is the first time that we learn about these anomalies in our elections, 2008, 10, 13, and 16. We haven't heard this before. But I was so surprised with those comments from some of the commissioners. But of course, the Dean of the College of Law, the graduate school, Sampeda, summarized my presentation in just one or two sentences, specifying and highlighting public counting. And this was injected in the draft federal constitution. So that is my contribution to to that particular hearing of the Federal Constitution. That there should be public counting. We should not allow counting made alone by the system without us verifying it, without us knowing it, what really transpired. But we have to do it in a way that everybody in the city will see the results.
Okay, Professor Toti.
Coming from the advocacy circle, being apolitical and non-partisan, and entering into the political arena has given me a lot of lessons learned. And quoting the good senator of thinking out of the box, I believe that while we engage in this war of words, and our key here is how to argue our position statements. The thing that we should do now that we have gained enough sympathizers and supporters, practically new friends, what we should do now is to weaponize these arguments. Because once we weaponize these arguments, it's no longer us that will be fighting the battle. It will be these new sympathizers, it will be these new supporters who will be out there to echo and pass on these weapons, not of mass destruction, but weapons of intellect, weapons of knowledge, weapons of arguments, so that they would know what has been stolen from them, what has been cheated from them, so that once and for all they can realize the reality that what we see there as black and white is all fake. So until we have gained that much following, we grow the numbers, what we need to do is to further strengthen and use these arguments and translate these arguments into weapons.
I think, Sen, the statement of our resource persons here is very unanimous, no? A call for action. Okay, basically, we should do something about this problem, this issue. Now, my question is, if we will act, if we will go to battle, saan yung battlefield natin? Which arena? Supreme Court, etc., etc. Then, final question, kailan ba ang plano ninyo to do this action? Do you have a timeline? A day, 2 days, 3 days, 1 week, 3 years? Can I ask this to our resource persons again? Kasi I think ang importante dito is yung timeline eh. Baka magiging moot in academic or whatever. Black actions.
Not to be very facetious about it. It has started. On day one, it has started. This MATA ng Balota is a call to action. And our responses to these present developments is part of the calling to action. Because we're hopefully we're starting to open the eyes of many of our viewers and listeners. And that's the first thing. As Toti was saying, they have to be the ones to join us in this whole effort. So we're starting this, and I congratulate, of course, MATA ng Balota to have initiated this. It becomes a vehicle, first to educate our people, to know who the enemies of the people are, and to eventually determine how precisely, if I may borrow the word, weaponize this as we do battle. What is sad, however, is we are talking all the time of a war when there shouldn't be a war. It is us, the people, that should be protected by the administration, by government, because we are the government against those that are supposed to be enemies of the state, and those that have taken over the state in different ways. I cannot miss out all the time in mentioning the oligarchic interests, because the oligarchic interest has covered much of our quality of life, of our way of life. and has relegated the administration to do the police actions against terrorism, communism, so on and so forth. But in terms of the whole economy, in terms of the basic services, the oligarchic interests have taken over. I cannot lessen the impact of this and point to them as one of those that we have to do battle with.
We still have the pending petition in the Supreme Court. It's more than 3 weeks ago.
Magdamo's petition.
Yeah. In that mandamus, it's all about the proper use of the voter's receipt, the digital signatures, and then the interventions, implementing rules and regulations. Even the group of Senator Dick Gordon, the Bagong Bayan, also filed an intervention last Friday, motion to intervene. So, yung question ni Doc Mike, ano yung action? We're already ahead with so many actions. So, we even had an open letter to the President, no? MATA SA BALOTA. And we're telling Tatay Digong to consider yung aming hinaing sa Supreme Court. Yung mandamos na pinisent namin, kinain namin sa Supreme Court. So, even si Senator Dick Gordon, sumama rin sa intervention. So, marami na po kami na sumusuporta dun sa mandamos. So, hinihintay na lang po namin kung ano magiging action ng Commission on Elections at ang final decision ng Supreme Court dito sa mandamos namin. Kasi sinasabi rin namin na itong mga voters receipt, ito dapat hindi nasa kustodiya ng Commission on Elections and Smartmatic kasi kung natatandaan nyo, the Presidential Electoral Tribunal regarding the case of Marcos versus Robredo, yung resibo po doon, yung voters receipt, nabasa, binasa, o may sadyang nagbabasa. So wala akong saysay yung ating voters receipt. Nakalagay pa naman doon sa ating batas. Dapat voter verified paper audit rate, ino-audit po dapat siya. Ano po nangyari doon sa ating voters receipt noong 2016? Wala pong nangyari doon. Ang pinaka-importante sa atin dyan, i-keep safe natin yung itong voters receipt kung po pwede nga. Sinasabi nga ng grupo na hindi na dapat COMELEC at saka Smartmatic ang mag-ahandle niya, kundi yung Office of the President. Ang custody yan, itong mga voters receipt. Second day pa lang naman ngayon. At baka, who knows, no? One of these days, baka sabihin ng Supreme Court, granted. Invitation ng mandamos, pwede na namin kunan ng camera, no? Yung mga ballot receipts, or I mean the receipt boxes, no? Na nandun lahat yung mga voters receipt. Pwede na namin kunan doon ng mga camera pictures and videos, and we can come up with our own tallies, no? Kasi nga, yung sinasabi ni Senator Lina kanina, yung election returns, gamitin din po natin yung voters receipt. Kasi itong mga voters receipt, mga validated po ng botante. Except yung mga cases na ni Atty. Melchor, pwedeng exceptional yun. No? Pero majority, no? Magmula Batanes hanggang Basilan, gamitin po natin yung voters receipt. Kunan po natin ng picture. Huwag na po natin padala yan sa Commission on Elections. Baka naman mabasa naman, mabagyo, mabaha, balindol. Naku, lalo pong grabe yan. Kaya, nananawagan po kami sa Pangulong Digong, sa Tatay Digong. Kung pwede itong mga voters receipt, nasa custody ng inyong opisina po. Yun po.
Follow-up lang, Professor. Kukunan ng picture yung resibo or yung VVPAT, yung voters receipt. Sino ba ang kukuha ng picture? Kasi ang sinasabi nila, magagamit daw ito sa vote buying, etc.
After elections na po ito eh. So wala, yung ballot secrecy, wala na po doon. No? So, kahit shuffle natin, tinatawag namin yung kamerang bola. kakarambola mo yung mga resibo doon, kahit 2 araw, 3 araw, pwede pa natin kunin yun eh. So, wala dong balot secrecy na
For purposes of full audit, dapat yung balota at yung resibo, binabangga yan. So, because if you will just simply count the voter receipt, and then, ang mga pangalan doon na wala doon, or binigay sa iba yung boto mo, without the ballot, you may not be able to find anything. You will just confirm what the machine has already reported. Kasi kung ballot receipt lang as is, the result will simply confirm yung resulta nila. But if you match it with the paper ballot ng botante, that's where you find the anomaly. Yun.
Professor Toti?
Answer the question of what's a call for action. As an IT practitioner, we're familiar with doing strategic planning. And now that we have an organization not beyond AES Watch, beyond Philippine Society, we have a political organization called KDP. We can see that now we can use this structure, we can organize ourselves and then identify the milestones that we need to achieve in the next 3 years if we're targeting 2022. That way, we can already prepare ourselves as we move forward, what we need to accomplish, given the type of structure we need to organize ourselves, so that when we engage into battle come 2022, we have already the resources necessary to engage directly in the different battlefronts. And to us, again, as a part of our practice in IT, it is our norm to do strategic planning. And in that regard, we can identify what tactical resources we need on the ground, what operations we need, and as we identify each and every one, we will know the timetable, when to do this, and how much we need to able to mobilize them.
Yes. And we're talking about timeline. Let me call the legal counsel of MATA SA BALOTA in the person of Atty. Magdamo. Attorney Mel, can you sit down there on the other side? Timeline. Itong mga filing ng mga actions, legal. Ano bang timeline dito? So, when we're talking about, the issue of failure of election, what is the timeline? Ano ba to?
So, yung binanggit kanina ni Toti Casiño, yung Section 5 of the Omnibus Election Code, it's about postponement, hindi na natin magagamit yan. Section 6 ang pwede natin gamitin, failure of election. Ang timeline doon is 30 days. 30 days from May 13, which means until June 13.
You mean to say na if you intend to file any petition or legal action on the issue of failure of election, which I understand the only entity who can declare this is COMELEC. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, only COMELEC.
Is within
30
30
days.
days. Within that time, after 30 days, parang you will forfeit your opportunity to take legal remedy on this issue.
Yes, we lose that opportunity. But, I'm not in favor of that, i-file pa rin natin for record purposes. No? But there's another way of doing it that you don't have to go to COMELEC. You can go to the regional trial court like what was done in 2014 in Nueva Ecija by supporters of Brother Eddie Villanueva. They filed a case, not an election protest, but a freedom of information case. The right to know what is inside that ballot. And then they made it clear that they are filing this not for the purpose of installing their candidate, but only to let the people know the truth. And the Judge Celso Baguio of Gapan Nueva Ecija granted it. And doon, napahiya yung COMELEC nun. Tapos, what happened, yung COMELEC kinasuhan niya yung judge, si Chairman Brillantes. So nagkaroon ng hearing sa Senate, and it was a marathon hearing in August of 2014. Nagkaroon ng challenge between tayo, the same people, ito sila Toti, sila Nelson, sila Chong, no? Binuksan yung balota sa Senado, marathon hearing to prove who is correct. And we proved that mali yung mali, ang layo-layo ng constitution natin eh. In other countries, they call it freedom of information. Here in the Philippines, it's right to know. Yun ang nakasulat, no? So you filed in the regional trial court, right to know, right of the people to know, ano ba yung nasa loob ng balota na yan? Compare it with the resibo. And there's no deadline for that. Yung 2013 case, final ng 2014 na.
Going back to, before you react, Professor, going back to the issue of failure of election, no? I just would like to ask a stupid question. If you will allow me to do that. No? Ang sabi mo, isang entity lang yung pwede mag-declare ng failure of election, which is COMELEC. Then you're asking COMELEC to declare failure of election. You know, isn't that stupid?
The petition to declare the COMELEC stupid. Sasabihin ng COMELEC, I will roll that. I am not stupid. You are the one stupid. Ganun. It's a stupid law eh. So let's not go that road. Although, for courtesy purposes lang, para give COMELEC a chance to call us stupid again, eh okay lang, anyway. Then we will file with our army of all over, regional trial courts all over the Philippines. Sampalan natin. Hindi let's take mga 10 to 20 lang. Para for the record lang.
Of course, ito for the record lang we're not here to burn COMELEC. No? Actually, sa totoo lang, COMELEC dapat tulungan natin. No? Because kahit COMELEC is not perfect. No? Walang perfect na agency dito. But you know, kung dahil hindi siya perfect, sunugin natin yan, gibayin natin, who will do the elections na? Now, what we're saying is, tulungan natin, we would like to support COMELEC in its righteous intentions for a clean, credible, honest election. Yun yung sinasabi natin. No? Baka ma-misinterpret tayo na inaaway natin ni COMELEC. Well, this is basically democracy. Basically, we're just exerting our rights as citizens of this country and demanding our government, particularly COMELEC, to do its job as provided for in the Constitution. Professor?
Gusto ko lang dagdag doon sa sinabi ni Atty. Mel. Pwede i-invoke yung Executive Order number 2, which is the freedom of information. So, pwede natin i-invoke yung FOI na pinirmahan ni Tatay Digong. This is in parallel with what you mentioned earlier na ginawa doon sa Nueva Ecija, yung kaso ni Brother Eddy, yung right to know. So, we can invoke Doc Mike, Chairman Butch, no? Freedom of information na pinirmahan ni Tatay Digong.
Sakop ba yung constitutional body itong, di ba executive order ito? Can you, ano?
Actually lang, so sa EO ni Digong, Executive Order number 2, hindi siya sakop. But they will exert
COMELEC being a constitutional body, no?
Yes. But they can exert efforts to persuade independent constitutional bodies.
Napakaganda ng discussions natin and we have one late guest no, na dumating. Tawagin ko nga yung isang kandidato pa natin sa Senatorial for his last word. We have RJ Javellana. RJ, can you come up and just last comment on these things that we are talking about. Then pagkatapos nito, we can already go.
Sinasabi po ng mga narinig po natin yung mga slogans na ginamit po ng mga ibang media outfit. Ano po? Sana panalo ang taong bayan. Sa nangyaring ito, muling naulit po ang malungkot na nakalagay sa ating konstitusyon na ang tunay na kapangyarihan ng taong bayan ay siyang dapat na manaig. Sa eksperyensya na ito, talo po ang taong bayan. Malinaw po na isang dayuhang makina ang nagbigay ng direksyon sa kinabukasan ng taong bayan para matiyak po yung tinatawag na mga economic policies na gagawin sa Senado tulad ng Train 2 na siyang makikinabang ay ang mga oligarko. Ang pagpapalit po ng saligang batas na kung saan kumakatok ang interes ng mga dayuhan ay tiyak po na ito ang sasagasa at magpapahirap sa maraming Pilipino. Ang KDP po ay lumahok sa eleksyon na ito. Namulat po kami sa aming mga mata dahil malinaw ang aming plataforma. Malinaw po ang aming tindig sa Smartmatic na isa ito sa instrumento ng mga oligarko para manatili ang matinding kontrol sa ekonomiya ng mga oligarkong ito. Gamit po ang surveys na peke, gamit ang mga mind conditioning na ito. At isang araw bago mag-eleksyon, 2 araw bago mag-eleksyon, lumabas ang isang survey na halos tugma doon sa mga lumabas ngayon. So, ito yung malaking sarswela. Tama na ang sarswelang ito. Ang boxing ay dapat hindi lamang po sa eleksyon. Marami pong forma ng boxing. Pwede tayong lumabas sa ring na ito. At yun po ay ang hamon ng Katipunan Demokratikong Pilipino. Maraming salamat po.
Attorney Melchor, last word.
I will just add tunod sa sinabi ni Mel. Marami pong, may mga kandidato na pong nagtatawag sa amin, humihingi ng advice doon sa kanilang protesta. Sa mga kandidato pong ayaw na magprotesta because malaki ang gastos, if you just want to find out kung totoo nga bang pinilang yung boto ninyo, sundin nga natin yung ginawa ni Brother Eddie Villanueva dati doon sa Nueva Ecija. Nag-file po siya sa Regional Trial Court ng civil action para pabuksan lang ang balota. Tatlong ballot box, 6 na ballot box, hindi for the purpose of nang ikaw ay i-install, ikaw ay i-proclaim, kundi tingnan natin, bilangin natin muli ang mga balota na ito kung totoo nga ba ang inilabas ng makina. So, ganito po, kasi magastos po ang protesta. If only for the purpose of peace of mind, kung totoong natalo tayo, nanalo tayo, mag-file nga kayo sa Regional Trial Court ng civil action based on the right to know na magtataga kayo ng balota doon, ballot box, kung ilan, pabuksan ninyo at bilangin muli. And then, kung maaari, paalam niyo po sa amin para we can keep up the public pressure kasi alam ko may mga RTCs din na hindi aaksyon. Kasi yung mga nakaupo, magpipressure yan sa RTC na wag aksyonan. Pero dito po, gamitin po natin yung pinakaisang lakas ng taong bayan against this regional trial courts na hindi aaksyon. So kung mag-file po kayo ng civil action para magpabukas ng mga balota at marami pong politiko o mga kandidato ang magpapabukas, hindi po magastos masyado yan. Ang babayaran, abogado lang at yung fees doon. Kung 3 ballot box na ang pabuksan mo at paglabas, hindi tugma-tugma ang balota, well, that's a good start. Ang ipapabilang po natin ay mula po senador hanggang konsehal. Tingnan talaga natin kung tama yung pagbibilang ng mga makinang ito. Because sa akin, as far as I'm concerned, vote shipping machines talaga ito. So mula senador hanggang konsehal, pabilang natin lahat. And then kahit 3 ballot box lang, bawat munisipyo, mawiwindang ang sindikato dyan. Kaya dahil buong Pilipinas yan, papabukas. So it will not cost too much. Siguro yung mga kababayan natin, if you are so minded, as a taxpayer, as a citizen, as a voter, pwede pong mag-file sa RTC ng special civil action pagpabukas po ng balota para mabilang po muli ang mga botong ito. But I think it would set a precedent kasi this is precedent setting. Kasi nung si Brother Eddie, kandidato siya. But what about if I'm just an ordinary citizen, a taxpayer, a voter, at that? Gusto kong makita kung paano binili ng makina yung mga boto namin. Especially po yung naghahanap po ngayon ng kanilang boto. Like for example, si Bishop Ted Malangin, yung party list niya. Sa Nueva Ecija naman ito. 6 ang church niya doon, kahit 2,000 ang miyembro. Wala pang 200 ang boto ng kanyang party list. So that's a good start. 2,000 ang members niya, wala pang 200 ang boto ng kanyang party list. Although, kinampanya niya, at malamang command-vote sila doon kasi this is church. So naghahanap po. So ganito po siguro mga party list. Yung mga tinalo nitong sindikato kasi hindi nagbayad, ay magpabukas po tayo ng mga balota doon sa lahat ng RTC sa buong bansa. Mawiwindang ang sindikato COMELEC at Smartmatic kasi magkakabukingan talaga tayo dito. That's a novel idea and it could be a precedent setting for future elections just for peace of mind sa kandidato or the voting public. Alam ko may mga kaya po ang mga kababayan natin dyan sa mga munisipyo. Mag-grupo-grupo po tayo, magpabukas po tayo ng mga ballot boxes. Wala pong magawa ang COMELEC at Smartmatic sa issue ito.
So what you're suggesting at this point in time, Atty. Glenn, Atty. Mel, is this, instead of pursuing legal action, petitioning COMELEC to declare failure of election, etc., this is a better option, a more righteous option because we go to the Freedom of Information law, executive order, the right to know, etc. We go that. And ang maganda dito, as you are saying, pwedeng marami. So, we can do this. Anybody, any citizen of this country can go to any regional trial court and petition the regional trial court for this freedom of information thing. Am I right? Am I right? Kahit marami, kahit hindi lang isa, kahit sabay-sabay lahat pupunta sa kanya-kanyang regional trial court.
Actually, tinanong ko si I can't recall exactly my constitution. If this is constitutionally supported, a Bill of Rights, the right to know on matters of public interest. So the right to know on matters of public interest, if it's a constitutional right, it's an actionable right. But it's an actionable right. So, pwede po siguro, as a citizen, taxpayer, and voter, mag-file ako ng petition, civil actions sa regional trial court, mag-identify ako ng mga ballot boxes doon, at then papabuksan ko dyan. Oh.
Ilan ba RTC
Sa buong
meron
bansa
tayo?
po.
Ilan
Pwede
ba
natin
more or
gawin
less?
yun.
Ilan ba isang
By
daan?
taking this fight further. We take this fight further. Kung ang politiko ang magpapabukas, mas madugo ang laki ng babayaran mo. Ipapakuha mo yung ballot box, padadala mo dito sa Manila, bubuksan, nino, ni COMELEC, na sindikato. Pagkatapos dadayain ka na naman doon, ibibenta ang desisyon, magkakapera na naman ang mga hinayupak. So, ngayon, sa halip na gagawin natin, huwag mong dalhin ang balota dito sa Manila. Bilangin nyo dyan sa regional trial court na inyong lugar.
All over the country.
All over the country. Ito na nga po ang panawagan natin sa ating mga kababayan. Simulan po natin ito. Alam ko po, may mga OFWs po tayo may kaya. O mag-fund po tayo ng mga civil actions dyan sa regional trial court. May mga abogado tayo kakilala. Pro bono na lang po. Para po sa bayan. Para sa bayan, pabuksan natin ang mga ballot boxes doon sa inyong presinto. At bantayan din po ninyo ang ballot box doon sa municipal treasurer's office kasi baka doktorin. But this time, it's mabilis to eh. File tayo ng civil action, pa-actionan agad natin sa RTC, pabuksan agad, dito magkakahulihan tayo.
So ito yung new suggestion.
Yes, I think this should be the first step that we should do. Ito ang unang gawin natin. Pagkalat natin ito sa ating mga kababayan.
Not the filing of failure of election thing.
Iba na yun. That's another track. That's another track. Ang gawin natin po mga kababayan, kung gusto talaga natin manalo tayo, malaging malaya ang Pilipinas, matawala talaga itong tinik sa buhay ng bawat Pilipino smart natin, magkaisa po tayo. Kung gusto po niyo pumunta sa labas dyan sa may PICC, punta tayo doon. Kung gusto niyo mag-file ng RTC, mag-file kayo doon. Kung gusto ka mag-file doon sa Supreme Court, mag-file kayo doon. Wimintangin natin ang utak ng sindikatong ito. Sabay-sabay natin, gawin natin to. Manindigan tayong lahat mga kababayan.
That's Atty. Glenn Chong.
Yes. Buti nagkaisa tayo dito lahat. Dami natin na-accomplish. Kanina I was racking my brains. Ano bang gagawin ko?
Alright, Professor Nelson.
Yun lang yung sinabi ko sa kanina. Let's invoke freedom of information na pinirmahan ni Tatay Digo sa Executive Order number 2. No?
Alright, so with that, no, again, gusto ko lang tanongin is timeline. So, nasagot na yung tanong ko. So with that, maraming salamat and we will continue this forum although tapos na yung eleksyon, no? So, yung MATA sa balota, tapos na.
Tapos na ang dayaan. Ngayon is the time to make holy the dayaan.
So, next week, we will continue this forum at Manila Hotel, pero baguhin na natin yung pangalan. Hindi na MATA sa balota. MATA sa bayan. We have to look at the welfare of the nation. We should see the problems of the country.
Ang ilagay natin dyan, Doc, bitayin si Smartmatic at COMELEC.
Maraming salamat mga kaibigan natin from media. So I'll see you next Tuesday on behalf of Senator Lina, our host. No? Maraming salamat.